I just came back from Paris and have a cold, and that's why I'm still kind of hoarse. It's not from smoking cigarettes in a cafe. Hey, I'm Richard Haines, artist and illustrator, here with MUBI at Posteritati to talk about some of my favorite posters and movies. So it's my first choice. It's BELLE JOUR. There's a lot about this film. First of all, the costumes for Catherine Deneuve are by Yves Saint Laurent, which to me was like kind of a god of design and kind of Frenchness. And I watched it when I was probably 18 or 19, and I didn't totally get it. And then I watched it again recently, and as an adult, who's lived a lot of life, I immediately got the references of kind of boredom and wanting to escape and S&M and sadomasochism and all the nuances of kind of her perfection and then the opposite of her wanting to kind of be degraded. And so that contrast always really appealed to me. One of the characters is Pierre Clementi, who is this very like the quintessential S&M. He's her S&M fantasy. And he has, I think, like a grill, which in Paris in 1969 was pretty radical, and a leather coat. And he just like kind of oozes sexuality. And as a kind of as a repressed kid growing up in the suburbs of Virginia, this guy, like, I was in the movie theater and I literally had to like hold myself back. And I couldn't exactly figure out why, but he just represented all of this kind of tension and sexuality that I couldn't really pinpoint at the time. It's really interesting. I went to this poster just graphically without knowing. I never would have associated this with a film because I think it's something, I think of like Gene Seberg, but I found the graphics so incredible. And we were just talking about this. I know there was a kind of art movement in Poland of like very graphic, very specific, very modern art. And that's really what I'm responding to. I'm not sure. I mean, I would love to talk to the designer about this. I'm not sure what this means as opposed to just a clear edge. But actually the fact that it's an eye with a tear, I think maybe is more representative of the film than I give it credit for. But this was really, I love the film, but I respond more to the graphics. I just think it's so bold. Like I would kill to see 10 of these like kind of, we pasted up on a street. I think it would be amazing. I'm a huge fan of Altman. I mean, I think he was just brilliant, and Nashville is my absolute all-time favorite movie about this country and its insanities. But this film, again, it was really confusing. I loved it when I was, 20 or 21 watching it, and I saw it again, and just the relationship of the three women. I mean, Shelley Duvall is really, we're talking about Chloe Sevigny. Shelley Duvall was kind of Chloe Sevigny of that time, like just so much herself and so not a star machine happening. And there are specific scenes, they just reminded me of like girls that I went to high school with. She's in like a yellow Pinto and she gets her skirt caught in the door and she has like a yellow key ring, and then the apartment is all yellow, and she has like recipes from, I don't know, Good Housekeeping or like all the magazines from back then. I mean, it's really insane, but it just reminded me of a lot of people I knew. I know this was shot, or I've learned this was shot by Jean Pagliuso, who I know did a lot of fashion photography for Condé Nast and for Vogue, a lot of personalities, I think for cover of Interview. And then there was an art director there, Richard Bernstein, who would kind of tweak them and color them. But she was very much of the moment in the same way Shelley Duvall and Sissy Spacek were. I mean, the poster has the same kind of faded out, weird in the pool. Like they're inside a pool, which to me is always kind of a very trippy thing. It just has the same kind of offbeatness as the film, which I really appreciate. I don't know, I hardly know anything about Japanese culture, but I think to kind of go this deep about sexuality, especially 60 years ago, is pretty extraordinary. This was kind of, maybe not the sexual part because I was that more repressed, but this was my fantasy of what being adult would be, which would be to like smoke weed and take your clothes off and kind of roll around. It never really happened that way, but that was just a fantasy I had. The sex scenes are so intimate and so tender, and it's really striking how modern it is, especially right now when there's so much repression and so much trying to eliminate a group of people who have always existed, trans people. So I think, this movie is so relevant for now. There's one scene at the end where, it's really, she stabs her eyes and then walks out on the street, and there are all these kind of normally dressed, well-dressed people going to work, looks like going to work or kind of going about their day, and they're all kind of standing around gawking at her. She's like, it's the worst case scenario. She stabbed herself, her lover killed himself. I don't guess she can't see. And I had this distinct feeling of being really young and just kind of not fitting in, and almost feeling like this person who was having an out-of-body experience, and everyone around me would just kind of stare at me because they were normal and I was kind of this freak show, and then they would look and then walk on. So that's like a very visceral interpretation, but it really came up of just kind of otherness, in a culture that really does not give space for that. There was this thing on Instagram the other day. Someone was like, okay, so who's your Lady Gaga and who's your gay icon? And I put in Diana Ross, guess how old I am. And this was Diana Ross was like literally my Lady Gaga and Chapel Roan, everything rolled in one. So when she started making movies, it made total sense. And I would have gone to see her in anything. I did. She's Billie Holiday, but to me, it's Diana Ross playing Billie Holiday. You can see it with the gardenia, and it's even interesting. I never noticed this, the handcuffs, which I assume either meant drugs or just the society that Billie Holiday was in, which was incredibly racist. So yeah, it's really, I don't think that if there was another actor in this film, I would have picked this poster, but it's really about my love of Diana Ross. And I love the way she's rendered. It's very much like an old-fashioned poster. This is the 70s when everything switched to photography, and it's really almost like a kind of 1940s or 1950s rendition. So it's interesting. Even in this period, there was a real fascination with like the 30s and early 40s. So they might have been trying to incorporate that, although now it doesn't really read that way. But yeah, for me, it's Diana Ross. So those are 5 of my favorite. There are many more here that I could talk about. So thank you, MUBI. Thank you, Posteritati, for having me. I'd love to come back and expound on more. Thank you.